All right. Nice, nice, nice. All right. All right. Sound quality, mic check, mic check. See, this is a good angle. Let me see. All right. Good angle for sure. Um, how's everybody doing? Hope everyone's doing very well. It's Ugo. Just came back from brunch. Had a late brunch. I went to a spot called Mike's Diner. Had some really good food, good eggs, waffle with walnuts, pancake, got some syrup, uh, with bananas and strawberries on top of veggies, drizzle all over it. It was delicious. And then I had to like take some of it home. I'm gonna eat that later on. Um, I'm gonna read a book. I got a new book. It's orange, right? It's called Rare Breed, right? It's a guide to success for the defiant, dangerous, and different, right? So if you relate to that or you're curious what it is, we're gonna read this together. The color actually caught my attention. It's actually it's actually my brother's book. He had two books in the crib, and I'm like, the orange just stuck out to me. I forget what the other book he was reading, but I looked at this one and then I saw the title. I'm like, all right, nice. I'm gonna check it out. I've been reading a lot actually. I'm usually an audio book or audio kind of person. I consume a lot of audio. Let me crack this window. It's kind of hot in here. It's starting to warm up here in Boston. All right, so all right, so it has the table of contents, like right. So the very first one was rebellious, audacious, obsessed, hot-blooded, weird, and hypnotic. Then what's here? And then at the end, the very last one is emotional. All right, I'm gonna read this. All right, it says, read this first. All right, so I imagine the person who wrote this book, um, you know, they're setting the tone. They want you when they say read this first, they actually mean it. Maybe it's gonna give us more insight into it and what to expect. All right, so let's go. It says, none of us were meant to be common, right? We were born to be comets, right? This is a quote from a gentleman called Donovan Livingston, Harvard Graduate School of Education convocation in 2016. And that was the quote. So none of us were meant to be common. We were born to be comets. It was early 2007 model. Our young branding agency had seemed like a comment when we would launch 2 years earlier. Now it's looking more like a meteorite about to burn up on re-entry. But first, let's tell you how we got there. Right. So it looks like they launched a company in 2007, and they want to tell us how it's got there. Right. So we met as teens. Oh, by the way, this book is written by two people, Sonny Bonnell and Ashley Hans Hansberger. Right. So two ladies. You see that, right? So those two ladies with the nice smile and everything, they wrote this book, right? So it says, we met as teens in the mid 1990s, back when AOL was cool. Our strangers were strangers who crossed icicles during a snowball fight in the suburbs of Chicago. Our chance encounter felt like two supernovas colliding in the cold air. Neither of us could have imagined how that Big Bang would affect our future. We had each spent our childhood marching to the beat of our own drum, It was life changing to find someone who moved through life in the same way. In those screechy dial-up modern, you've got mail days. Uh, we saw the order as magical portal from our humdrum small town lives. One thing we had in common, entrepreneurship, right? It ran in our blood. Both our fathers and grandfathers had grown humble businesses from nothing into huge success. From an early age, we witnessed the extreme highs and lows of running a company. We had we had ringside seats to their individual accomplishments, failures, leadership styles, and financial challenges, and ultimately the sacrifice they made. Little did we know we would follow a similar path, right? Young and bright eyed, we embarked on the traditional path and enrolled in college together. Sunny, a musician all her life, shifted gears to follow her dream of becoming a veterinarian. A veterinarian. Is that like a vet doctor? Ashley graduated high school early at 17 and wound up in the English department in hopes of being a journalist. As a side hustle, we moonlighted with graphic design, created gig posters, and album art for bands, learning the craft on our own. Still, it made no sense for us to drop out of college in our early 20s, just shy of our degrees, to launch a branding agency with $250 and zero experience, right? That's exactly what we did. We called our agency Model. A model is a short statement that encapsulates the beliefs of a person or organization. It's a war cry. The name had symbolic significance and communicated the kind of company we wanted to build. All right. From the beginning, we were swimming against a rip current of doubt. People said we were too young, too female, too inexperienced, and too broke to succeed in a world where 60-ish admin made the rules. The only ones in our corner were our parents, and even they had worried eyes. Who could blame them despite Sonny going back to school while running the business, this time with a scholarship to Savannah College of Art and Design? All we had was an audacious vision. We started looking for role models in our industry, but the blueprint in our small South Carolina town was old school advertising agencies run by old guard. We studied their work, and the more we learned, the less inspired we were. It was tired, static, homogenized, and templated. These guys were established but slow and self-congratulatory. They moved like molasses and not like Jagger, right? They were big, impressive balloons, and we were sharp knives. So with a model stolen from the Charles, so with a model stolen from Charles Bukowski, the quote is, "What matters most is how well you walk through the fire." We set to change the conversation. The ink on our business cards had barely dried before we started throwing the haymakers at industry tradition. Other agencies walked out of lavish office suites. We set up shop in a shady part of town in a tiny room inside an industrial warehouse. They had investors. We rolled pennies. They had hundreds of clients. We had none. We knew business were desperate for a different approach to branding, improve it. There was just one problem. No one knew who we were. To survive, we needed a Hail Mary. It came in the form of a 6 by 9 inch paper garbage can in an era where yellow page ads were all the rage. Uh, we spent the only money we had on direct mailer. We designed it to look and feel like a galvanized metal garbage can. And when we pulled the lid, and when you pull the lid copy, and when you pull the lid, the copy read "Trash the Ordinary." It's funny. And a handwritten font with our phone number and web address, nothing else. It was weird, it was brave. After getting our hands on a mailing list of nearby businesses, we mailed each one a copy and held our breath, right? So they're kind of like, setting the tone, telling us exactly how they started. Again, it says read this, right? If you're just joining in, I'm reading a book called Rev Read. It says it's a guide to success for the defiant, dangerous, and different, right? So if that identifies to you, or if you can relate, or if you disagree, all right, we're gonna have to find out, what the rest of the book said. But I studied it already, all right? So welcome everyone. Um, Over the next several days, the phone started ringing and people started showing up at Moto, which over the next several days, the phone started ringing and people started showing up at Moto with the can in hand. We earned our first client, and I heard of the curved dentist who wanted to, in his own words, do something different. Together, we created an experience rich, cutting edge dental brand, one of a kind in our area. That success marked the first of many disruptions across traditionally unsexy categories such as law, real estate, audiology, hospitality, food, and beverage. That makes sense. That's it. Every time you have good intention, right? Like say you want to start a business, you want to get better, you want to improve yourself, you want to improve the quality of your life. That immediately what comes first is disruption, right? There's always going to be something that attempts to throw you off, right? It could be like you start to get tired, whatever it is. Just know disruption always follows intention, just with anything you want to do. And how quick does it come? It comes immediately after you make like you have this great intention about improving yourself, right? So let's get back to the book. Um, if it could be challenged, we would declare war on the ordinary. After we won various competitions, earned some awards, received copious amounts of national press, people got curious. Who were these young girls running an unorthodox agency from a warehouse in the ghetto, right? Business as usual pushed back hard. If you've ever lived in a small town, you will understand. Small towns are notoriously locked down by established players. We had no clue we were a threat. The big agency in town invited us to their office to try to size us up. They wanted to take our campaign uh, they were developing for a local bank. Everyone had a leather briefcase, and there we were at the far end of the table, the size of a small country, feeling very out of place with no briefcases. The creative director flung the work down in front of us. What do you girls think? We paused, all eyeballs on us. And then Ashley said, this isn't Target's tagline. Ashley said, isn't this Target's tagline? And Sonny said, do people really care if they get a free blender with a checking account? Just like that, the meeting was over. Yep. They had us escorted out. The CEO flung the door open and said, you will never be successful in this town. After a while, we started to keep score, right? So they kept score of the times they were sabotaged, which was 16 times. Times they got fired for the exact reasons they were hired. 20 times. Times we were told our ideas were absorbed. Hundreds. Times we were written off thousands of times, right? We were learning the hard way that vision, dangerous thinking, and defiance of the status quo comes with a price. It made the first several years of building model a monstrous roller coaster. On one hand, we had nothing to lose. It was fun, real, raw. We loved every minute of it. We helped cool companies do amazing things. But on the other, our guts hurt from the punches. We bounced checks, slept at the office, experienced soul-crushing defeats, and Sonny got so thin from stress and anxiety that her family staged an intervention. Most of all, we were all lonely. While most of our friends were happily tripping away at college and waking up with shaving cream mustaches on their faces, we were slugging it out in boardrooms, getting schooled every which way, and growing up very, very fast. To broaden our appeal, mentors and family members suggested we dial back our crazy ideas, tame down the fluffy talk of vision and purpose, take whatever work we could get our hands on, don't ruffle feathers or have such strong opinions, just be like everybody else. You have no idea how close we came. After a few years of this, we started to cave. The relentless uphill struggles against a world that either didn't understand us or opposed us. had turned out had turned our passion into dust. On a long drive back from a pitch event um, we first bombed at, but ending up winning. The truth came out. Maybe we weren't cut out for entrepreneurship. Maybe our dreams were just dreams. We got so discouraged. We thought about closing up shop. Why was this so hard? Why was everything such a dogfight? We felt like no one believed in us, and we were beginning to question whether we believed in ourselves. Right? That's tough. That's tough. As one thing, when people don't believe in you, that you can kind of like stomach, you can kind of like go against. But when you start doubting yourself, that's tough. That's tough. I don't wish that on nobody. All right. Well, let's get back to this. Excuse me. After admitting life had kicked out every ounce of heart left out of the heart left for the business, we had a conversation with Sonny's dad, one of our greatest mentors. He warned us, "You two are rare breed. Not everyone will love you. Some may hate you, but the ones who get you will never forget you. Now, dust yourselves off and get back in that saddle." That message changed everything. Of course, people didn't get us. We were doing things differently, breaking rules and vandalizing traditions. This was our identity. We needed to own it. Instantly, we became more confident in tearing up the rule book, running our business on our own terms, and being who we were, not who we were supposed to be. Instead of doing everything people told us we should be doing, be transactional, be conservative, be agreeable, we did the opposite. Instead of bearing vices like our obsessive perfectionism, rebelliousness, and weirdness, we made them our selling points. What's more, the qualities that made us also helped us connect powerfully with our clients. And within a few months, Model began attracting global clients and scrappy startups that wanted to flip the script too. We might not have had a long pedigree in the branding industry or iconic founder whose 50-year-old principles we were supposed to follow. But we were cutting our teeth on the streets. Other agencies focused on niches and specializations. We focused on diversification, working across categories, verticals, industries, and trades. One minute we would be branding a small startup, the next a $2 billion giant. In doing so, we expose ourselves to the inner workings, mindsets, and behaviors of a vast array of leaders and companies, the good, the bad, and the surprising. We turned our attention not just to branding, but to leadership, and identify the connection between the spirit of the person at the helm of the company and the brand experience that company created for its customers. The virtues or vices of that person inevitably made a company thrive, turn sideways, or fall apart. This fascination with leadership quickly became the linchpin of our branding business. We became experts at helping leaders harness their superpowers, turning their businesses and brands into the rare breed or standout in their category. Let me see. Let me play some music in the background. All right. So I'm gonna play this. This is something funny, good song, something smooth in the background. All right, just play something cool in the background. Hopefully, it doesn't interfere with the reading. It's my favorite song, by the way. All right, so that shift in our thinking is what we believed, and is that shift in our thinking and what we believe were our strengths was the salvation of our company and the beginning of the concept of rare breed. The idea that the things that made us different, the other people consider to be weaknesses or vices, can in fact be the source of our greatest strengths. This new perspective changed more than just our company. When we stopped worrying about being good enough, we were able to focus on nurturing and growing the parts of ourselves that made us great. Yes, we learn to leverage our innate qualities as strengths, but we also learn to love them. And in the end, we became more confident in other areas of our lives, not just the part that took place in our offices. Our point of view proved widely successful, eventually taking our agency from the low country of South Carolina to Dallas to New York City, and from working with local rule breakers to designing brands our future for the future of food technology, retail, fashion, beauty, and humankind. Our clients include ambitious startups and household names like 20th Century Fox, USA Today, E&J, Gallo Winery, and the legendary digital networks. Our work can be seen in Best Buy, Walmart, Starbucks, Target, CVS, Walgreens, Whole Foods, Costco's, and hundreds more. We now conduct workshops and consult with business leaders, teams, and organizations around the world on how to stand out using the rare breed mindset and virtues. And the pages that follow will share the lessons we've learned and the unconventional trades we've seen that can lead to great success. The trades we discover aren't vices or things to fear. They are your greatest assets in becoming the creative, the leader, the human being you want to be. Although society often forces us to conform our undesirable qualities, we'll show you how to harness them, priming you to live and lead in the ways you've never thought possible. Know this: you're not average. You already have what it takes to succeed and stand out. We're going to show that there are as many ways to be a rare breed as there are people who know they have more to give to the world. We hope this book will show you that. Right? So that's the name of the book, Rare Breed, right? We're gonna jump into it. So this is the introduction. It's the introduction, right? It always starts with a quote, right? It says, "If you want to succeed, if you want to succeed, you have to own who you are." I totally agree. Like it's you hinder yourself if you cannot fully own who you are. There's you should embrace every part of you. Like embrace all the things you think limits you, all the things you think, you know, are not your strengths, all the things that you might be embarrassed about. Those are the things that makes you unique. All the things that those are the things that make you stand out. Whatever it is, think about it. Anything about yourself that you might think is not favorable, or maybe you don't like the way this happens, you didn't like the way this the way you look, whatever it is, your accent, the way you speak, whatever it is, those are your strengths. So the sooner you own them, the more powerful you get. In a society that profits from your self-doubt, liking yourself is a rebellious act. This is a quote from Caroline Caldwell. All right, we're gonna look that person up. Who's Caroline Caldwell? Right, I like to put a face to the names. Caroline Caldwell. Okay, there's a bunch of people with that name. I'm not sure, but sounds like a lady's name. All right, that's cool. All right, so maybe you're 19 and wondering whether college is for you, or 37 and worried you would have to ditch your startup dreams and get a real job, or somewhere in between. It doesn't matter. You're probably like us when we started Modo. You're chasing an unruly vision and you want success without compromising who you are, even if it means sacrifice and hardship. The 20th century Trappist monk Thomas Merton captured that captured that drive when he wrote, "If you want to identify me, ask not where I live or where I like to eat or how I comb my hair, but ask me what I think I am living for in detail, and ask me what I think is keeping me from living fully for the thing I want to live for." I like that quote. If you want to identify me, ask me not where I live or what I like to eat or how I comb my hair, but ask me what I think I am living for in detail, and ask me what I think is keeping me from living fully for the thing I want to live for. Oh, that's powerful. All right, so it says, however, at the heart of thousands of business, leadership and success book is a common theme. Success is conditional. You have to successfully you can have a successful career, thriving business, and fulfilling life, but only if you work your way up the invisible ladder. Grind down your prickly points and march in time like a deedful soldier, so you will, in that awful phrase, fit in. You've heard the whispers since middle school, like lines from a script you didn't write. Don't create ruckus. Keep your head down. Stop being so weird. Forget about that crazy dream. Play it safe, right? We've all heard of all of these things. Hidden among the systems and steps is a subtle and sinister message. You need to change who you are to succeed. There's something about that that's flawed. A lot of people believe that. For them, playing safe, smoothing down rough edges, and fitting in works. It helps them find their success story by following the tradition blueprint. Take classes, get the degree, and rise up one resume, building promotion at a time. However, that's not you. If you follow that traditional path, you risk becoming one of the people Martha Medeiros had in mind when she wrote, "He or she who does not turn things topsy turvy, who is unhappy at work, who does not risk certainty for uncertainty, to thus follow a dream, those who do not forego sound advice at least once in their lives die slowly." That's sad. You prefer Henry David Thoreau? I wanted to live deep and suck out of the marrow of life. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. So I lived so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shape close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its slowest terms. Nobody ever called you compliant or predictable. There's a disorderly, independent, rogue, magnificent side to you that's unlike anyone else. You're like rapper Sean Carter, who in 1994 couldn't get a record label to give him a deal. Instead of throwing the towel, he founded his own record label company. He called and changed his name to Jay Z. What if, like him, you could take parts of yourself other people criticize and turn them into superpowers? What if you could change your future by not becoming someone else, but by going all in on who you are? You can. We're going to show you how. Discovering the rare breed, right? That's the next heading. In 15 years at Model, we've helped hundreds of leaders unlock their potential by tapping into what makes them unique. In doing so, we found many of them to be obstinate, temperamental, melodramatic, and ruthless. For these swashbuckling visionaries, believing six impossible things before breakfast wasn't just a line from Through the Looking Glass, it was a business plan, hell, a life plan. After a while, we realized that not only were the difficult ones more interesting to work with, but they also tended to be fearless entrepreneurs who inspired us with the audacity of their ideas and the intensity of their passion. It hit us like a lightning bolt. It's kind of hot in here. It's getting hot. Books like this, like very, they kind of like they charge you up. They charge you up, because it lets you know that you're on the right path. Like it gives you confidence. It gives you the reassurance that you need to keep going, to keep forging ahead, and be yourself despite but despite the resistance. Because life is always like that. When you want something to get past to make that progress, there's always going to be things resisting, pushing you back. A lot of people cave in and they like let it push them back and fold them in and bundle up. But if you can just with the courage and have the will to like push even forward and just push even more, oh man, you're gonna be unstoppable. You're gonna do anything. You're gonna do everything. It hit us like a lightning bolt. Being defiant, dangerous, and different is a gift. That epiphany was a game changer. Success is no longer the pursuit, the pure view of the Harvard MBA graduate. You don't need degrees or titles or venture capital. You just decide and act. You can change the world because of it. Whether you're building an eye-popping innovation with Kickstarter cash, filming award-winning documentaries with your iPhone, or launching social movements on Instagram, you don't need permission to lead or succeed. You can change the conversation not by suppressing your vices, but by owning them. Being a leader no longer means getting someone's seals of approval or following an accepted glide path. It means going all in on who you are, grabbing the mantle of your career and saying, "I've got this, no apologies, no excuses." In other words, Succeed not despite who you are, but because of who you are, right? Succeed not despite who you are, but because of who you are. People like that. People like that are what we call the rare breed. Rare breeds have always been with us. Joan of Arc was a rare breed. Mozart was a rare breed. Orson Welles was a rare breed. Lenny Bruce was a rare breed. Maya Angelou was one too. These people unsentimentally tore down the conversations of their chosen fews and transformed them with their talent and vision. Now, rare breeds include Tommy Adeyemi, the 25-year-old author of the best-selling fantasy Children of Blood and Bone, who has shown young writers of color that there's a place for them in the little white world of swords and sorcery. You can count on Yousafzai, Malala Yousafzai, the Pakistani activist and winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, who didn't let a round of bullets shoot down her vision of a world where girls can learn and lead among their ranks too. Rare breeds live to their own beat and are indistinguishable from their calling. To get what you want to realize, to get what you want to realize visions that seem outlandish to the rest of the world. They sacrifice everything and stop at nothing. They're rebellious thinkers, relentless perfectionists, strange weirdos, and spellblinding orators. They squeeze every ounce of talent from themselves and everybody around them until one day their potential is realized and they change the world. The next tab is virtues, mantras, and stories, right? So at the heart of this book are seven vices, seven traits that conventional wisdom regards as dangerous and counterintuitive to our success. They were called virtues. They are the keys to becoming a rare breed. Rare, rebellious or rare breed hurl themselves against the walls of businesses as usual to see what breaks. Audacious, a rare breed sees realities other people can't see and have the nerve to try to bring them into being even when everyone else says they are impossible. Obsessed, right? Perfectionism isn't a bug, it's their operating system. They're all in, always on, 24/7, sketching at breakfast, practicing pitch lines in the shower, waking up with insane ideas at 4 a.m. Oh, wow. Hot blooded. Hot blooded. They come to the table with fire and fury that puts others to shame. Weird, right? Weird. Uh, Rare breeds are strange. Know who else is strange? Astronauts, poets, noble literatures, artists, inventors, everyone who dares to do what makes us laugh, cry, swoon, and gasp in awe. Hypnotic, rare breeds are spellbinding orators and seducers and conductors capable of leading the orchestra of people around them and inspiring others to fulfill their potential. Emotional, rare breeds feel things deeply and trust their guts. They channel their emotions and show up with empathy, kindness, and intuition. Each virtue leads into a series of mantras, unique stories of rare breeds combined with unorthodox wisdom and practical tools we've learned along the way. Use them as guiding principles to build your career, business, or brand, right? Uh, Through these stories, you meet extraordinary rare breeds like actress and producer Lena Dunham, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, chefs Chad Hauser and Daniel Boulud, sushi master Jiro Ono, advertising provocateur Cindy Gallup, inventor Sir James Dyson, legendary Swiss watchmaker Philip de Ford, tennis star Serena Williams, music phenomenon Beyonce, filmmaker Tim Burton, graffiti artist Banksy, and many, many more. They embody everything rare breeds are capable of. A dangerous duality. Of course, nothing good comes without risk, and each of the virtues also has seductive sides. A dangerous duality you must pay attention to. What's more, the borderland between the light and dark sides of our nature is murky and indistinct, making it hard to tell which is which. As Carl Jung wrote, there is no energy unless there is tension of opposites. Hence, it is necessary to discover the opposite to the attitude of the conscious mind. I'm going to read that again. Carl Jung wrote, there is no energy unless there is a tension of opposites. Hence, it is necessary to discover the opposite to the attitude of the conscious mind. Right? I'm liking this book. This book, I'm liking it. The film Black Swan neatly illustrates this perilous state. Natalie Portman's Nina's begins as a creature of begin as a creature of light, but the darker, more sinister side of her persona slowly becomes part of her everyday reality. Eventually, when she looks in the mirror, she sees not herself but her doppelganger, the unrestrained, chaotic destroyer who descends into violence and madness. For Rare Breeds, the impulses that uplift can also undo. Set loose without morality or control, hot-blooded passion can lead to rage and reckless, destructive acts. Charisma can spiral into force that manipulates and defrauds. Obsessive perfectionism can lead to compulsive behaviors, endless work, burnout, and alienation. Rebels can lose sight of their cause and go on a rampage for the sake of sheer destruction. As you see, the people whose stories we tell, from Avicii to Icaros, the hazards of the duality are very real. We'll confront them, discuss them, and look at ways we can prevent them from sabotaging us. Right? We don't want to self-sabotage. We want to be aware of the strengths that we have and use it for the better good. We definitely don't want to be self sabotage. Right? I need water. Some water. What's everyone doing though? How's everyone spending their weekend and everything? It's one of like the very question I ask my students. I'd be curious what they do on their weekends. How exactly do they spend them? And they think it's so it's such an innocent question, but that's one that I'm very curious about. Like, what are you gonna do? You guys are so energetic. You have so much going on. It's so much like the world is yours. It's all yours. So what are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna spend it? You know. I always hope everyone has a very well spent weekend. Um, but where did we stop off? Where did we stop? All right, let's see. All right, let's see. All right, so as you see through the people whose stories we tell, from Avicii to Icaros, the hazards of this duality are very real. We'll confront them. We'll confront them, discuss them, and look at ways we can prevent them from sabotaging us. Right? What we hope you will take away. Right? So that's the next heading. You might be wondering, can I be a rare breed? Right? Is that a question you've asked? All right, we're gonna find out. The answer is an emphatic maybe, right? Rare breeds are, in fact, rare. What separates rare breeds from everyone else is one simple truth. While others may suppress their oddball, pain in the ass qualities, rare breeds lean into theirs. They celebrate them and learn and let them off the leash, break the windows of conversational wisdom and run like hooligans through the corridors of entrenched power. In a world that wants to own you, owning yourself in this way can hurt like hell. The rare breed life is not one of least resistance. It's hard. It's not for everyone. Not everyone is cut out for it. Wow. There's a lot of birth control that comes from reading. Like I mentioned earlier, I enjoy listening. Like I take in so much information from listening, and plus that way I can do other things while I'm listening. But reading, I'm realizing I've been reading a lot. I have another book I'm reading. Reading, there's a lot of birth control in it, especially if you're reading out loud. It's like being on the treadmill and singing out the songs you're listening to. It's like that's impressive, you know. A lot of people are not aware of it. A lot of people underestimate it. Um, but yeah, I'm finding out reading is like that. But let's keep going. All right. So being a rare breed, not everyone is cut out for it. If you're reading this, you may be young and eager, ready to shake things up and put the world on notice, or you may be enjoying some success and wondering what's next. Maybe you're smarting from a failure, you're smarting from a failure and trying to figure out how to stage your comeback. Or you may be an experienced leader or executive feeling like you've hit a wall and asking, what more can I do? No matter where you're at, we hope you will use Rare Breed as a guide for understanding, unlocking, directing the potential that's been slumbering in you. The secret to doing that, own it. Learn to accept and love yourself for who you are, worthy, valuable vices, virtues, and all. Don't just march to the beat of your own drum. Build your own drums out of wire, garbage, and spare parts, right? Some readers will disagree with the premise of Rare Breed. Maybe they want more generic advice or more scientific evidence. They'll pick up the book in the airport bookstore, read the jacket, snarl, "What is this nonsense?" and toss it back on the shelf. Others won't like it because we talk about provocative topics, politicians, social issues, sex, gender, religion, and more. They will snap, "Stay in your lane, F the lane." We didn't write this book for those people. We wrote it for you. We wrote it for you. They wrote this book for you. They wrote it for you, for anyone who feels like they don't fit in, for everyone, for anyone and everyone who wants to lead, create, inspire, and provoke change on their own terms by harnessing all of who they are, not just the pretty parts. It's a new conversation for a new era. Let's begin, right? So that's the introduction. That's the introduction, right? Um, I appreciate everybody. If you made it to this part of the live, I appreciate you for taking out the time. I'm very aware of time is precious. Time is the most precious commodity that we have as human beings. So I really appreciate it. I would never waste anybody's time. I'm very respectful of people's time. I'm very mindful of it. So thank you for joining in. Appreciate it. So the first one is rebellious. This is the first chapter of the book, right? Defiant, disruptive, ungovernable, rogue, and insubordinate. An asset when your rebellious spirit is honest to push boundaries, confront wrongs, give a voice to the voiceless, or birth something unprecedented. A weakness when expressed with malice or bitterness or for no reason other than to stir up trouble, create unnecessary chaos, or get revenge, right? So rebellious is a neutral word. A lot of time when people hear it, they think sometimes it feels like it has a negative connotation. I never thought so. So rebel means you're standing for the things that you believe that is of great cause, great good. But unfortunately, it can be used in a different way as well. It's neutral. All right. So let's read chapter one, virtual one, and let's see how it goes. Right. So Andrew Jackson stares at you from the $20 bill like he's daring you to kick up something. He looks every inch the warrior nicknamed Old Hickory. What kind of person does it take to give one of history's most controversial presidents the heave ho from this place of honor? Try an even bigger badass named Harriet Tubman. There are plans to have her replace Jackson on the 20 in the coming years. Tubman was the real deal. Born a slave in the early 1820s, she once said, "There was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other." It's hard to imagine a more courageous, hazardous way of rebelling against the system than escaping from slavery, not once but twice in 1849. But that's what Tubman did, following the legendary Underground Railroad north to the Pennsylvania and onto freedom. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 dictated that all escaped slaves had to be returned to their masters upon capture, even if they were in the free state. So it would have been understandable if Tubman had chosen to keep her head down in the North, stay quiet, adopt a new identity, and avoid unnecessary risk. Maybe join a book club and take up needlepoint. We weren't there, but we're pretty sure her response to that idea would have been F that, right? But instead, she headed to Maryland many more times, helping 50 or 60 family and friends move north and earning the nickname Moses. Retirement time, right? Hardly. Once the Civil War began, Tubman was part of a military expedition that liberated hundreds of slaves in South Carolina. She also worked as a cook, a nurse, and a spy during the Civil War, and later foreshadowed Rosa Parks' activism by refusing to move into the smoking car of a train. For Tubman, rebellion was an asset. She used it to transform her oppression and frustration into action, and did something no one had done before on such a grand scale. That rebellious rare breed spirit could have sabotaged her efforts, but instead, she used this inherent part of herself as a strength. About her efforts, she said, I can't die but once. That's not just a rebel talking, that's a bona fide hero, right? This is Harriet Tubman. And she had a quote. She said, I had crossed the line, I was free, but there was no one to welcome me to the land of the freedom. I was a stranger in a strange land, and my home, after all, was down in Maryland because my father and mother and my brothers and sisters and friends were there. But I was free, and they should be free, right? This was from the scenes of the life of Harriet Tubman in 1864. The next topic is you've been conditioned. Yeah, you've been conditioned. If rebels are such powerful force, why don't people head for the horizon, define conventional wisdom, or refuse to conform? From where we sit, it looks like a lot of people were waiting for permission. If that's you, you could be waiting a long time. We've been conditioned to believe that rebels are troublemakers, renegades, and lawbreakers. The connotation of the word can be misleading. The word rebel suggests leather jacketed teens with bad attitudes, started up punk rockers, and other mischievous outsiders. We think of them as people who break the rules for the hell of it and create unnecessary conflict. But that's not true. They're the ones with hooks for the hands and scars on the faces, who lie, cheat, and steal. Jesse James, who robbed banks and trains. Billy the Kid, who is said to have killed, who is said to have killed 8 men before he was himself gunned down at age 21. But not all rebels are like that. Freddie Douglass was a rebel. Eve was a rebel when she took the first bite of that forbidden apple. When you get right down to it, all rebel really means is somebody that does what society has deemed unacceptable or abnormal or that others fear and don't understand. More often than not, history has ultimately shown that the problem rests with the conventional thinking, not with those who disobey or transform it. In fact, most of all the advancement we've seen in all areas of human life, from business to art to science to politics, have occurred because of rebels. Still, the fear of rebels shapes our modern mindset. It penetrates our parenting, careers, leadership, and companies. Snuck out at midnight, you're grounded. Made a ruckus in class, off to the principal's office. Broke a dumb rule at work, you're fired. We're taught to obey authority figures and not question the way things are done. That's why so many of us grow into repressed adults. Our rebellious spirit is like an animal in a cage, caterwauling to be turned loose. We spend our lives obeying someone else's voice instead of listening to our own. Here's what's interesting. All of those other voices telling us what to do and just noise. They influence how we behave in Origins of Madness, psychopathology in animal life. This was written in 1979. J.D. Kane describes how laboratory animals are conditioned to accept that being part of an experiment is simply part of their daily existence. As the animal enters the laboratory room and takes its station in restraining harness, its habitual self-imposing restraint forces it to submit to the rules and regulations of the testing hour. The animal does not rebel against these familiar rules and regulations because through training it has relinquished its freedom of action and for the hour becomes a passive agent responding to the experiment's signals as best as it can. Just like that, forced repetition teaches an animal to accept completely unnatural conditions that would normally have it speeded and clamoring for its life. Given enough time and pressure, human becomes just as docile. We play nice, we don't question, we limit ourselves. We follow the rules that society determines are necessary for order and control. But that's not the kind of life any of us is meant to live. In the 2011 documentary, Steve Jobs' One Last Thing, Jobs comments on the power inherent in refusing to accept a small, limited life, right? So Steve Jobs says, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is and your life is just to live your life inside the world. When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is and your life is just to live your life inside the world. Try not to bash into the walls too much. Try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. That's very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact. Everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it, you can influence it, you can build your own things. Once you learn that, you will never be the same again. Fist bump, Steve. Rebels moved the world forward. Harriet Tubman would have understood exactly what Jobs was talking about. We were rebellious reveries are all her spiritual ears. If you've ever had the urge to step out of line, stand on your desk and tell the man enough, you're part of the rebel alliance. You can pick up your insignia in the room down the hall. Rebellion is evolution, the overthrow of the good for the better. The status quo gives ground grudgingly, so rebels are needed to challenge corrupt regimes and social codes that throw outdated systems and force us all, sometimes kicking the screaming into the future. Case in point, Emma Gonzalez, right? The 17-year-old from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School who stood fiercely at a podium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to give legislators and National Rifle Association a piece of her mind after her classmate had been gunned down. She repeated common troops used. She repeated common troopers used to undermine gun control, and after each started we call BS. Our most pivotal moments are about rebels who look at a reality that is intolerable and that everyone assumes can be challenged and say, I won't stand for another minute of this. From the founding fathers flippant, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Our birth of the British Empire to Elvis in the 1950s, whose performances were so charged with pelvis thrusting that newspapers newspapers ran headlines like "Beware of Elvis Presley." Rebellion breeds legends who have historic effect. Rare breeds rebels are often considered outrageous at the time until their radical natures are recognized as tools for change and societal development. We admire and revere those who risk everything to stand up for what they believe is right. Even if we don't agree with their cause, we love that they fight for it. That's why rebellious is our prime virtue, the headwaters of this raging red breed river. Everything else we'll talk about Red Breed's doing, following audacious vision, turning obsessive perfectionism into world-class excellence, fueling the fire in their bellies. Starts when the conformist says, "You'll never crack the human genome," and the rebel says, "Really? Hold my drink." Saying saying that is more possible today than at any time in history. Rebellion has gone from being a once in a lifetime thing to part of our cultural DNA. In business, rebellions happen daily. Industries are built on overthrowing what's gone before. Technology has made it easier, but it's our mindset, the idea that not only can we break free to chart our own course, but that we're supposed to, that gets most of the credit. Today, anyone can bring about radical change. Disobedience in the eyes of anyone who has read history is man's original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and rebellion. This is Oscar Wilde from The Soul of a Man under Socialism, 1891. Right? We're getting through chapter one, right? The next tab is Take Up Arms Against Conformity. When author and researcher Francesca Gino surveyed more than 1,000 employees in a range of industries, fewer than 10% said they worked in companies that regularly encourage nonconformity. As she wrote in the Harvard Business Review, they urge employees to check a good chunk of their real sleeves at the door. If you're stuck in a broken organization that doesn't give a damn about your renegade thinking, you're not alone. Most organizations fear rebel. We bet you know what it's like to be trapped in this sort of conformist machine. You feel smothered and bored. You're sick of proposing daring, brave ideas and getting a rebuke instead of a reward. As you watch other people do the challenging and career making work you should be doing, jealousy kicks in. You're not under anybody's thumb. You're naturally driven to push limits, to challenge taboos, to disrupt and confound. You relish the idea of striking terror in the hearts of powerful, comfortable people. Contrarians is your modus operandi. Complacency is your eighth deadly sin. Your spirit animal is two raised arms with the middle fingers extended. Deep down, you've always been the pugnacious punk with your chin in the air. It's a lot of words on here I want to look up. Pugnacious, what's that? The skeptic, the infidel, the kind who points out that the emperor has no clothes. But for as long as you can remember, you felt like the only person who saw the hypocrisy in the system, the only one asking it. It's obvious to you how they're manipulating us, right? Right? Now you're ready to right injustice or to show the world how to do something smarter, greener, or more humane. You have a secret notebook bursting with rebellious ideas that will flip corporations on their heads, products, designs that will change how the world works, political message that actually means something. They take away in your mind like explosive devices, waiting for you to push the detonator. So why haven't you pushed it? Because fitting in is more comfortable than bucking convention. Psychological studies shown that conformity isn't just a learned behavior in humans, it's innate. And so, faced with the consequences of deviating from social expectations, you find yourself wishing you could be content by comfortably numb, like the rest of the sheeple. But you can't. But you can't because you're a rebel. So was Harriet Tubman. She didn't start out as a legend. At one point, she was just a young woman looking down the barrel of a terrifying choice: spend life as a slave or abandon everything she had ever known, risking capture, torture, and death to find freedom. She's a rare breed because she found courage to make that choice. Here's our chance to stir up the rebellious rare breed within you. Rebels are ordinary people who do extraordinary things. You're no different from them because being a rebel isn't about being scared. Well, because being a rebel isn't about not being scared. It's about feeling the anxiety and pushing the button anyway. If you're willing to walk away from what you know to create something, if you're willing to walk away from what you know to create something new, you're a rebel. If you're willing to step out of your comfort zone to right or wrong, you're a rebel. If you speak up when nobody else does, you're a rebel. If you're a rebel, you're a leader too. Recall how often in human history the saint and the rebel have been the same person. That's a quote from Rollo May from The Courage to Create. The dark side of rebellious, though, right? Used with respect and restraint, rebelliousness is a force of nature, a controlled burn that clears land for new growth. But tearing things down out of sheer malice can end up setting a wildfire that can and might easily destroy everything you work for. Look at the most infamous rebels of all time, Satan. In Milton's Paradise Lost, he's unwilling to live under what he sees as God's tyranny. So he rebels, and he and his army is cast into hell, where he says, "Here at least we shall be free. Almighty house not built. Here for his envy will not drive us hence. Here we may reign secure, and in my choice to reign is worth ambition through in hell. Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven." Really? We're willing to bet hell wasn't plan A. The thing that separates heroic rebel from nihilistic agent of chaos is service, right? Who or what your rebellion is serving. Take one of the most famous rebels of literature, Robin Hood, right? Seeing his people taxed into poverty and brutalized in the absence of the king, he and his band of merry misfits rebelled against abusive authority to bring justice to the powerless. Robin wasn't serving himself; he was rebelling to right or wrong and protect others. That's noble. One of the most infamous real-life rebels of the 20th century, Adolf Hitler, had no such moral compass. He was a rebel of the worst kind. He used his power to bend Germany to his will, killing millions and igniting the Second World War. His only concern was making himself even more powerful. Rebellions throw off destruction like a fire gives off smoke, and destruction can be addictive. Just ask the arsonist standing outside a burning building, face upturned to the flames in pure ecstasy. If your act of rebellion isn't serving something greater than yourself, you can become an avatar of anarchy. If you're a rebel willing to walk a solitary path for the good of other people, you can become a rare breed, right? So there's a quote by Mildred. Hey Johnny, what are you rebelling against? Johnny said, "What you got?" All right, that's from the War Room. Putting rebellions to work. Whether you're building your career or business of your own, you have a big advantage. Nobody ever sees the rebel coming. Um, Whether you're building your career or a business of your own, you have a big advantage. Nobody ever sees the rebel coming. The established players in an industry are always fast, sluggish, and content. You're defiant, swift, and hungry because your ideas are daring and probably defiant. You will blindside the competition by the time they catch on. You've picked their pockets, stolen their best comments, and won their admiring press. As a rebel, you will meet resistance, but look forward to it. Rebellion is an act of war. The established order always counter punches and usually wears brass knuckles. As you're getting ready to make your move, ask yourself four important questions. What am I rebelling against, right? Like, what's your mission? What are you fighting? Who are you serving? What drives you? In a rebellion, your adversary defines you. Without that iceberg, the Titanic was just another ship. Without Sauron, Gandalf is just a hippie in a robe. If you don't know what or who you're fighting, you could find yourself punching air. Is it another company, a social code, the practices of an industry, a political ideology? Be crystal clear about your adversary and get to know them well, then play off its weaknesses. What needs to be changed? Know exactly how you want to disrupt the status quo. You can't improvise a mission. You have to have an idea not only of what you want to tear down, but what you hope to build in its place. The cost of rebellion is high. Without a cause, you or the people who follow you won't keep paying it. What do I have that nobody else has? Right? What's your selling point or contentious point of view? Why should someone believe in you or follow you? Can you double down on your roguish personality and devil may care with? You'll need to show up exactly what makes you like nobody else. If you're not sure what makes you special, start by jumping on social media and asking in one or two sentences, how would you describe me? What makes me interesting to you? You'll be surprised how many people will help you look in the mirror. And the fourth question is, uh, we're gonna read the fourth question, and that's where we're gonna cap this live. Um, what's the worst that can happen? Fear of the unknown is always worse than the actual unknown. What's worse that could happen if you rebel against everything you know to chase your vision? I'll read that again. What's the worst that could happen? Fear of the unknown is always worse than the actual unknown. What's the worst that could happen if you rebel against everything you know to chase your vision? You get your ass handed to you. Sure, so what? You get some great stories, learn some lessons, build partnership, and discover that defeat and death aren't the same thing. What's the worst that could happen if you don't rebel? You're stagnant, you regret, you spend your life asking what if. The following mantras are guiding you to kicking up the rebellious red breed within. In each of these stories, someone chooses to take a stand, face their head with, and keep going. Here's to getting in some good trouble, necessary trouble. All right. So this is red breed. That was chapter one. Chapter one is rebellious. Chapter two is F norms. So interesting read. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you have any book that inspires you, that charges you to become even more of yourself, that inspires you. Um, let me know what excuse me. Let me know what your what you know. Let me know what you're passionate about. Let me know what wakes you up in the morning. What are you aspiring for? What are your desires? And tell me exactly how are you doing those things. Um, yeah, yeah. My students would say, Mr. Hugo, you got to tell them to like, share, and subscribe, and all of the stuff they say on YouTube. So I really appreciate it. I feel good, and I hope everyone is feeling very well. All right, that's all I got for now.